KBLA Talk 1580. It's become our reparations theme song, that Aloe Black, I Need $1 or several trillion. We are pleased to be welcoming in for this comprehensive reparations conversation. It's a series that's been going on almost 2 years. We call it Freedmen Friday, and today we're welcoming in the inaugural Executive Director of Racial Equity for LA County. He leads the Anti-Racism, Diversity, and Inclusion Initiative, RD, which is aimed at improving life outcomes for all LA County residents. Dr. D'Artagnan Scorza, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, you were, before working with the county, you were one of the founders of the Social Justice Learning Institute and worked in Inglewood schools, a whole bunch of different jobs, but all of them, your focus has been about social justice.
That's right. The founder, actually, the Social Justice Learning Institute came out of my dissertation and my research at Morningside High School, working with young black men to help them. Morningside is where I'm from. I'm a Monarch Pride, here from Inglewood, and I'll tell you, it was a great opportunity to really understand how to help young men who are formerly incarcerated and on probation exit those carceral systems and make it to college. So we were able to get them to graduate at over 95% and get them into college and gainfully employed, and that work continues to today.
You know, right now, diversity inclusion is practically illegal. I mean, it's not illegal, but since the president is making all of these executive orders and punishing companies and institutions that do anything that they label as diversity and inclusion, it's almost, we're functioning as if it's illegal.
You know, first of all, diversity, equity, and inclusion is not illegal. So, I know that's how it has been framed in certain places, but it's not, right? I mean, I think when you think about diversity, you think about what the opposite of diversity is, or inclusion, and what the opposite of inclusion is, which is exclusion. You can only imagine how problematic that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the same time, we always talk about reparations here, and a lot of the conversation has to do with we are not affirmative action, we are not DEI, we are talking about something totally different, which is a debt and repair of harm. Right. So how does that fit within your understanding of your work?
Well, it's interesting. So one of the things I can say is that, as the executive director of the RD initiative, I serve at the pleasure of our chief executive office and our board of supervisors. And what I'm really focused on is what's happening here locally, right? I can't control what's happening at the federal level, and I can't, manage what's happening coming out of this administration. But my focus has really been centered on making sure that communities here in LA County are being served and that their needs are being met through these various polycrises. Because it's not just the anti-DEI work or anti-DEI efforts coming out of the federal administration, but it's also, the fires, right, that have happened, recovery from the pandemic, the various sort of polycrises we've been experiencing. And so what we're really focused on here locally in RD is making sure that our board and making sure that our supervisors have the information and the tools they need to make effective decisions for our residents.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's all we can ask. And there's always conversation about where we should be focused on when we talk about reparations. Is it cities? Is it counties? Is it states? Is it federal? Right now, nationally, it's happening on all of those levels. Happening meaning the activism, the policy pushes, even, HR 40, even though it probably won't go anywhere, it was introduced again. So what is happening at the county level here in Los Angeles?
So I'm really excited to talk about that. I think locally, our supervisors unanimously adopted a motion directing the RD team and the RD initiative to explore what actions the county can take to provide reparations to our residents. So the motion itself calls for us to build upon the efforts of the state reparations task force And it also asks us to put forward a set of policy recommendations along with the research to examine the many incidents of harm that people who are descendants of people who were formerly enslaved experience across all sectors in our society. So the board, directed my team to really examine and understand what we could do here locally. So right now, what we're doing is we're documenting the local harms. Before we can get to the place where we talk about what can be repaired, we have to understand what we are repairing. The State Reparations Task Force did a really good job laying out a framework, but it didn't really articulate in any significant detail what happened at the local level. So we've been finding, hundreds of incidents. So, for example, there was an undersheriff, just before the Civil War, who put together a posse to uphold enslavement. And, the state of California was a free state, and yet there was still slavery that was documented here in LA County. And a whole host of other issues like that. So we've identified over 30 incidents throughout the areas, throughout the county, where either the KKK or law enforcement supported racial terror. We have identified where there are, many incidents of harm that have taken place in this past century alone. So that work is really important. I think that's the first step. The second step is for us to develop a framework for a truth, racial healing, and transformation sort of a group to help us think about what the board has called for, which is an official apology to African Americans. And so, with this framework, we'll present that to the board. Ultimately, my job is to inform the board so they can make decisions. But we'll present it to the board, giving them advice that includes the lived experience or historical information that people that we've been able to find, and provide that framework to the board so that they can review it. And I think that framework will enable the board to take whatever actions they want to take, or steps they may want to take or may not want to take to inform this work.
All right, we're talking with Dr. D'Artagnan Scorza. We're talking reparations because it's a Freedmen Friday on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
You hear that? That's Mike sleeping soundly on a Sunday night. That's because Mike was smart this time. He took ZQL Ultra to fall asleep fast, stay asleep longer, and get the deeply restorative sleep he needs. So now he wakes up refreshed and ready to conquer Mondays.
Let's do this Monday.
ZQL Ultra. Not for colds, just for sleep. Really great sleep. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Some things can steal your sunshine.
Ugh, I just got my hair done.
Sorry, the cooler's broken. Anyone see my flip-flops? Anyone?
But COVID-19 can steal a lot more.
I just took a COVID test. Ugh.
Prescription medications for COVID exist. If you test positive this summer, ask your doctor if they're right for you. Visit PfizerForAll.com/COVID-19 to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-550-9651. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 five-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-550-9651. That's 800-550-9651. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Let's go! You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You've still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and help strengthen your immune response. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Schedule in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
So he's the inaugural executive director of racial equity for LA County. LA County is huge, bigger than many states in terms of population, definitely in terms of budget. Dr. D'Artagnan Scorza is here on a Freedmen Friday. And so you just laid out the fact that there was a motion that passed unanimously. That was Supervisor Holly Mitchell's motion, if I'm not mistaken, to basically look at what can the county of LA do about reparation. And you've laid out that you're in the phase of seeing local harms. So sounds like it's getting more specifics, because the California task force did kind of do a comprehensive overlook of harms, but you're getting specific to the county. Is that what we're doing right now?
Yeah, I think that's right. And I'm grateful for Supervisor Mitchell's leadership, because I think she really wanted to make sure that that we took this issue on head first, right? And we are following the direction from the state. So I think it's important to note that our efforts with the state are largely aligned, and that we really want to make sure that we are aligned, supporting what they're doing and following their direction. But at the local level, we had to spend time understanding the relationship between these harms and their impacts upon descendants of chattel slavery, specifically African Americans. And I think that's important to note. I think the other thing that is important is we have to spend time, reparations is not just about the check. I think a lot of people talk about that. We know some people argue it is, right?
I think the main argument is just that we don't exclude the check.
I think that's right.
It's not just the check, but a lot of times when people say that, they're saying it to minimize cash payments, and most people don't want to hear that.
No, I agree, and I think the thing, though, I think about when I consider reparations is that it's really about the fact that so many of us have been harmed in our communities for generations. And when we ask for those harms to be redressed or to be addressed, we're typically denied, right? We're denied redress. And when I'm not saying it's not just about the check to say we should exclude cash payments. I'm saying that because it's also about not replicating those harms. Like you can't just provide compensation and then turn around and use state violence against people again, right? You can't just address housing crises and get people into a housing and then turn around and pass laws that make it illegal for them to, marry who they love, for example, right? The law, the policy, the practices have to follow so that we don't repeat history. And so I think the important piece here is to make sure that we understand not only what the legal framework is that we're going to use to do the work that we need to do and present those options to the board, but that we also recognize how important it is for us to not perpetuate the harms that have been caused in the past. So now you said you're in that information gathering phase for the county. I'm sure there's some overlap with the City Reparations Commission. The City of LA, of course, is much smaller than the County of LA, but it's in the County of LA, and they just, through the LA Civil Rights Department, turned in a summary of their reparations work. Is that factoring in, and if so, how? I have great admiration for the work of Capri Maddox and her team and what they did. I think that the City of LA has set a model for how to think about and bring people together in community, both to produce their report, which I've read, it's incredible, but to also, I think, lay a framework for actions the city can take. Now, you said the county is very large, and you're right. We have more than 88 cities. We're larger than 38 states, $47+ billion budget. It's a huge organization. And so for us, we can certainly look at what the city of LA has done, but we have a lot of unincorporated residents in areas. We have, over 40+, law enforcement agencies that we're exploring. So it's a huge undertaking. And while we can look at the city's example, I think we're thinking about this at a regional level, and that'll enable us to understand how, places like Glendale, which was a sundown town, or the Antelope Valley, which were sundown towns as well, affected residents, or Manhattan Beach, right, which is where Bruce's Beach took place.
Right.
It gives us sort of a regional perspective, and so we can draw up on what the city of LA did, but we have to really look broader for the entire area.
Yeah. Part of the reason I mention it is because you were talking about some of the information that came out regarding the role of law enforcement and the role of the Klan. And one of the things that was most startling for me in the LA report was how popular the KKK was, and probably still is, in Southern California, with so many branches in this immediate area.
Yeah, and one of those branches was in Inglewood, right, which is where I'm from. And I remember when I was writing my dissertation at UCLA, I did a little bit of history on schools in Inglewood and found that there were, a lot of acts of violence in that community that occurred. And I think that, we have to recognize the role that racial terror has played in our communities. And I'm grateful that the task force in the city of LA did that work, right? Monlin and all these incredible folk who I've known for years that have looked at the role that the KKK played, including, somebody serving as a mayor. You had district attorneys and police officers. All these folk were embedded in our institutions. So when we think about their role in sort of upholding laws unfairly, unjustly, harming our communities, we have a very strong case for why we need to do this work.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, what does your timeline look like because I know, for example, with the city effort, they've completed their executive summary. Then it goes to the city council. They have to come up with their full report. Then it goes to the city council, and city council has to act or not act, right? You guys are still in the information gathering phase at this point?
We are. And, one of the things that I've been really clear about and I've communicated both with my staff and our team as well as our internal and external stakeholders is that we really want to take the time to get this right. This is not something we can rush. I think, we see what's happened with other reparations around the issues and efforts around the country with Evanston and Tulsa. And so, given that the county is working through a lot of challenging issues, we, recently went through the fires here, both in Altadena and Palisades. We are taking the time we need to look at this issue with detail and with the sensitivity it deserves. The other thing I think to note is that, that doesn't preclude us from being responsive as the social safety net. So the county is still providing services. The county is still meeting the needs of our residents. The county is still carrying out efforts to provide services, and is still doing what's right by our residents on a day-to-day basis. So I think you have in the county a great partner. We also have, you have our the board is committed to justice, care, and opportunities. Judge Songhai Armstead is leading that work and making sure that we address carceral issues in the county, right? So there are efforts that are underway, and while those efforts are underway, we are taking the time to explore how they can be aligned with what we're trying to do as it relates to reparations.
Understood. It's a huge county. You don't want to, be sloppy. I hear a lot of conversation, though. Why do we need another study? Why do we could just take the California study. Some folks apply that to local stuff here. Some are applying it to HR 40 and saying, extrapolate. We know what happened. Isn't it time for action? In fact, that was the logic that Governor Wes Moore used when he decided to veto that reparations in Maryland, that reparations bill, because he said it's time for action. No more studies.
Yeah, you know, and I admire Governor Moore. I think he's done a lot to help serve as a leader for many folk across the country in this area. But the issue I realize, you know, is that this is really complex work. I wouldn't say that we need another study. We have to establish the legal basis upon which we're going to do the repair. And because it's a complex issue, what we're seeing and have seen is that while there are a lot of jurisdictions that are trying to advance this work, unfortunately, a lot of them are walking them back too, right? So because folk have sort of, they're like, yeah, we're going to get to it, we're going to make it happen. And I admire them making those commitments, and I think our county has made a commitment to explore it as well. I don't want that to happen here in LA County, where, you know, we rush out, we get in front of ourselves, and we don't take the time we need to actually build the foundation upon which we're going to do this work. I think you had Assemblymember Bryan in here a few weeks ago.
Yep.
And he talked about doing that work with AB 7, right? Trying to establish the legal basis upon which the University of California can provide, or state universities can provide, preferential admissions to descendants of chattel slavery. It takes time because we have laws that are designed to prevent us from doing this very work. And so you can't just assume that we're going to roll out programs and services tomorrow when we have barriers to doing all of that. And there are you know, systems that are in place to prevent it from happening.
Yeah. And aside from the systems, which are long-standing, many of them long-standing, we also have a current environment in the country, combined with the fiscal emergency of all these budget challenges, which are made worse by the fires, which seems very hostile to this kind of work. But the county is moving forward anyway?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, our board has been very clear about their values, their commitment to equity. I think it's more about understanding where the need is at. So, you know, they have given me direction to continue to do the work that we're doing and to help address the need. You know, racial equity is ultimately about getting to a place where race is no longer a predictor or a factor in whether or not you receive the benefits or burdens in society. And what our board has been very clear about is that we want to make sure that we're addressing people's needs, and government does this already, right? Like we have homeless programs, homeless services programs, we have food vouchers, although we know that this administration has been working to you know, claw a lot of that stuff back. We provide for needs. So I think our board is really clear about that, and there's nothing illegal about doing that. And in fact, government has a responsibility to prevent discrimination, right, to redress harm, to repair challenges, and to provide remedies for people who are experiencing those harms. And so if we maintain that commitment, this work that we're doing is very consistent with the environment that we're in right now. And I think if you understand what the federal administration is trying to do, you know, the way they have framed their consideration of DEI is synonymous with illegal preferences and things that we've already gotten rid of here in the state of California through Proposition 209. And while, you know, Proposition 209, I think, has caused a lot of harm to folk in our communities, it also sort of was a precursor to what we're experiencing now.
I may have prepared us for this moment. We've got news, traffic, and sports, and then we'll have more reparations with Dr. D'Artagnan Scorza on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. California Democrats are moving forward with redistricting after Governor Newsom signed a plan that could net 5 House seats.
They fired the first shot, Texas. We wouldn't be here had Texas not done what they just did. Donald Trump didn't do what he just did.
Voters will decide in a November special election, countering a similar GOP push in Texas. Harvard is ordering the removal of a Black Lives Matter sign from 2 biology professors' office windows. The sign, posted in 2020, violates campus display rules. Critics say the move reflects political pressure and undermines free speech. And Hernandez Govan, accused of arranging rapper Young Dolph's murder, has been found not guilty. The jury rejected claims he ordered the hit. Govan thanked jurors and said he's just happy to be free and ready to hug his son. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Every day, a child in poverty waits for a sponsor is another day of hopelessness. There are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year. End their wait. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Just text the word radio to 83393.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers tuned up for their very important series in San Diego this weekend with a 9-5 win at Colorado. 4 straight win for Clayton Kershaw. 7 players in the Dodgers lineup had at least 1 RBI. The Dodgers needed a dominant win to build some momentum for their 3-game series with the Padres. Game 1 is tonight. The Dodgers lead the Padres by only 1 game in the NL West Division. The Angels are at home tonight against the Chicago Cubs. The Rams and Chargers play their final preseason game on Saturday. The Rams are in Cleveland. They'll face Browns rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders. Sanders is not starting, but Browns coach Kevin Stefanski said Deion's son will see a lot of playing time. The Rams and Browns kick off at 10 a.m. Pacific time. The Chargers wrap up the preseason Saturday night against San Francisco at SoFi Stadium. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Fatherhood includes being present during pregnancy, delivery, and beyond, supporting your partner and advocating for your baby's health. Black fathers play a key role in reducing maternal and infant health inequalities. Join the free AIM Fatherhood Program and make a difference. Visit blackinfantsandfamilies.org/fatherhood.
Hey, it's Matt, your leaf filter trusted pro. Gutters are an often neglected part of the home. They're also one of the most important. Clogged, overflowing gutters can cause serious problems like foundation damage or basement flooding, which can cost thousands of dollars to fix. Let's face it, cleaning gutters yourself is not only a hassle, it can be dangerous. But when you get Leaf Filter, you'll never have to worry about cleaning clogged gutters again. Get started today by visiting leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free inspection. If you decide to move forward, we'll professionally clean, realign, and seal your gutters before installing our patented stainless steel micro mesh system. Leaf Filter keeps out everything but the water. And it's backed by a lifetime transferable no clogs warranty. So you're protected for good. We're in your neighborhood and ready to help. Visit Leaf Filter today for a free inspection and estimate, and you could save up to 30%. Visit leaffilter.com/deal. That's leaffilter.com/deal.
Nearly 7 million Americans aged 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's disease, also known as AD, a type of dementia that affects memory, thinking, and behavior, making everyday tasks challenging. But did you know that Black adults aged 65 and older are twice as likely as white adults to develop AD? There are things you can do to help reduce your risk for developing AD. Managing conditions like diabetes and high blood pressure is crucial. Staying physically active, maintaining social connections, eating a healthy diet, and keeping your mind engaged with activities like reading or puzzles can all contribute to brain health. It's also important to recognize some common signs and symptoms of early AD, such as forgetfulness that causes problems with everyday life, asking the same question a few times in a row, and difficulty concentrating on basic tasks. If you see these signs in yourself or a loved one, don't wait. Early diagnosis and intervention are key to managing AD effectively. To learn more about AD and a potential treatment option, visit treatalzearly.com. That's treatalzearly.com. This message is brought to you by AZI.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services resources for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio, KBLA Talk 1580.
Welcome back to your home for Freedmen Friday. We are dedicated to having a comprehensive reparations conversation each and every week. And if you've missed them, they're all available on YouTube, youtube.com, KBLA 1580, or wherever you get your podcasts for free. Some of it is about making sure we know what's happening, and some of it is about being part of the momentum, which incredibly, I think it's pretty incredible, continues in this current environment. In fact, Dr. D'Artagnan Scorza is with us. He's the inaugural Executive Director of Racial Equity for the ginormous LA County. He leads the Anti-Racism, Diversity, and Inclusion Initiative. And under that, I mean, this obviously that's not all you do, but reparations is falling under that umbrella.
It does. And a lot of what we do centers on addressing disparate, outcomes, inequitable outcomes, disproportionality. So some of the work we do is in the homeless services sector. So we help, make sure that we're addressing disproportionality in Black people experiencing homelessness, or the rise in Latinos experiencing homelessness. My office has worked on issues from, ranging from sexually transmitted infections to bicycle mobility and justice. After Dejan Kizzy was killed in South LA, our board adopted a motion directing our Department of Public Works, our Department of Public Health, and my office to look at ways that we can decriminalize mobility. And so one of the things the county did is they updated their ordinance, making it legal for people to ride their bicycles on sidewalks, and especially in places like South LA or
where there are
no bike lanes, right?
Where there's no bike lanes, yeah.
I mean, I remember being a kid, and I would ride my bike in the street on the opposite side to make sure that I saw the cars coming in front of me. I paid attention to what was behind me.
Right. And all of these things are important, but they're not reparations. And that's right. one of the big, I guess, sticking points is that what I'm hearing is that we're putting too many things under the category of reparations that aren't reparations. They could be affirmative action. They might be anti-discrimination laws. All of those things are good, but they're not reparations.
That's right. I think, the reparations as a frame, is important for our work to try and advance racial equity, right? It's one of the things that we can do. It's not all that can be done. So my office is focused on advancing equity broadly, and reparations is one of those things that we can do. And for us, we look at reparations as a way to emphasize healing and fixing the wrongs of the past, and I think also identifying how government can play a role in doing that. And again, my job is to present options to the board, right? It's not to make decisions. It's not to put forward my opinions. It's to do the work necessary for the board to understand where their options may be. And I would argue that that we have to think about it comprehensively within the context of the environment that we're in, because there's obviously, again, as you mentioned before, there's a lot of backlash in this environment.
Right, no doubt. I know that you sat on the Board of Regents for a little while. What a job that is, an important job. And so, of course, I have to ask you your opinion, even though this is not a county scenario, on AB 7, which would authorize priority admissions for descendants of American chattel slavery in higher education. And there's two reasons for that. One, you said we need to look at establishing a legal framework. Of course, I know you were talking about the county, but what applies in the county or the city or at the state level is ultimately going to play a role in how things are interpreted nationally as well. And the other reason is because some folks don't see that as reparations. I do. Some say this is more like in the affirmative action bucket.
So before I get to answering the question on AB 7, I'll talk about the legal framework question because I think it's really important. So you may be aware, and many of your listeners know that the county returned Bruce's Beach to the descendants of Charles and Will Bruce.
Yeah.
And we don't call that reparations either. That was restitution, right? Because it was repairing a harm. But there was a legal framework that we were able to use to get it done. And we did it successfully. So when you think about a track record of getting work done using a legal framework, we have an example already, right?
Yeah, which was a partnership between the county and the state.
That's right. That's right. With Senator Bradford, with SB 796 and the work that he did, helping to make sure we had the ability to return that land and amend the deed. And I was on the phone with the state parks the state parks folk, and we worked really hard together and with the governor's office to get that done, and with Senator Bradford's office to get that done. So these steps are necessary to move things forward. And so while some folk may say, AB 7, which identifies and allows the University of California and other state institutions to note who is a descendant of enslaved persons, is not reparations. The reality is you have to look at the big picture. You have to look at everything in whole. And the steps we have to take to get to the place where we can repair the harm require many sort of small pebbles that you put in place and build upon. And so I see AB 7 as one of those steps on the road, right, to repair, as the, I think, bill package calls.
It's called the Road to Repair 2025 Priority Bill Package. That's an interesting perspective, especially when you put it alongside Bruce's Beach, which took so many little steps, but which was something which, even though it isn't technically reparations, it's restitution. It is part of, I think, the momentum where people are accepting this idea that there has to be repair.
That's right. And I think because one of the good things about what Bruce's Beach does for us as an example, and we were definitely challenged on that as well.
Yeah, I never thought I'd see that in my lifetime.
To get it done?
Yeah, to get that done. You're going to give these black people back they beach? Okay. I never thought I'd see that in my lifetime, and I was really, really happy to see it, and still am, even though some people were mad because they sold. Yeah. If it's theirs, they get to do what they want with it. Well, still a win.
A credit goes to our board. I think, they had the political will. Supervisors Mitchell and Supervisors Hahn and the rest of the board had the political will to do what they believed was right. And they gave us the ability to take our time. We did an assessment of people who said they may have had claim to the land. We did a genealogical assessment. We spent a lot of time really working to get that right. And that's what I would invite folk to think about in this moment. Not that we have the time, right? I think the reality is people, are struggling. We are all facing significant challenges. We want to experience the repair right now, and we deserve to. And we also know that there are people who are working against our efforts. And so if we're not strategic, then we're not going to win. We're not going to win the long term. We're not going to win. We're not going to win on this issue.
Yeah. Well, so do you feel like the victory on Bruce's Beach and the work that was done on the county level, do you think that impacted the way the county, the way just the environment in terms of how reparations, restitution, this kind of justice is viewed, and what's possible is viewed?
I think because it was one of the first times a local government ever returned land, it opened up the doors of possibility, right? I think as you're pointing out, like it showed people that something can be done to address harms of the past. What I don't think it's quite done is it's not given us a framework for reparations per se.
Right.
Right. And I think that's not what it was intended to do. It was one incident, one situation, one clear historical example. One of the challenges I think we have in this field more broadly is that we have laws in place. You can't just like use taxpayer dollars to give money to people. That would be considered a gift of public funds, right? Though there are prohibitions on how dollars can be used to address these issues that many of our folk would like to see addressed. That we have to solve for those things too. The other thing I think that Bruce's speech did is it gave us the ability to see very clearly, legally, how we can establish a framework for addressing harms in that state bill, and I hope to write some of that language. In that state bill, we drew upon the UN's principles of reparations to call for government's responsibility to redress harm, to prevent discrimination, to prevent illegal treatment, et cetera. And I think that there is an opportunity for us to really lean into what our role is to prevent discrimination, to align with the Civil Rights Acts, to align with California's Civil Rights Act, to make sure that we use existing legal frameworks to advance this work.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're going to the UN description, of course, restitution is part of reparations in a larger sense, but it is not the whole ball game. And I think part of what we need to do is be intentional about understanding everything that's included, and that also cannot ignore the idea of financial reparation. A check. Dr. D'Artagnan Scorza is here. You're welcome if you want to get in on it, 800-920-1580, or if you're shy, hop in the YouTube chat and ask your question there. Certainly there's a lot of conversation going on there, Dr. Scorza, as we continue on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Nearly 7 million Americans aged 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's disease, also known as AD, a type of dementia that affects memory, thinking, and behavior, making everyday tasks challenging. But did you know that Black adults aged 65 and older are twice as likely as white adults to develop AD? There are things you can do to help reduce your risk for developing AD. Managing conditions like diabetes and high blood pressure is crucial. Staying physically active, maintaining social connections, eating a healthy diet, and keeping your mind engaged with activities like reading or puzzles can all contribute to brain health. It's also important to recognize some common signs and symptoms of early AD, such as forgetfulness that causes problems with everyday life, asking the same question a few times in a row, and difficulty concentrating on basic tasks. If you see these signs in yourself or a loved one, don't wait. Early diagnosis and intervention are key to managing AD effectively. To learn more about AD and a potential treatment option, visit treatalzearly.com. That's treatalzearly.com. This message is brought to you by AZI.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has worksource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Why'd I go to the doctor? My heart would race just taking my son to practice. It didn't feel right. So I got checked out. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com. Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
Dr. D'Artagnan Scorza is with me, and he is doing this equity thing for the county. LA County, which is huge. It's, I didn't realize, bigger than 38 states. That's a lot of states. That's most of the states. Fourth largest economy in the world here in LA. So it's like doing reparations for a little country within a country. And you said that you don't want to rush it. So does that mean there's no time frame at this point in terms of when you deliver that report to the supervisors?
That's a great question. It means that we're taking the time to understand the complexity of the issue. We are spending, so what we will be doing is talking to folk in community about what they'd like to see happen, and that'll go into the report that we do provide for the supervisors. And those listening sessions will be coming out here very soon, likely October, November of this year, before the end of the year. We've already talked to a number of reparations leaders in the field who are very interested in working with us, and we've been in conversation with them now for months to think about and inform what our Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation work group is going to look like. And so I think once we get those work groups established, that will give us a time frame for when we present recommendations to the board. Again, it starts with the apology. We've convened our county departments to get their feedback and get their input on what needs to happen. And again, we're doing the research. You know, the other, I think, challenge, as I mentioned before, the research is going to establish the legal basis upon which we do this work. But it's not like it's easy to go. People didn't, document the burning of a mattress on somebody's lawn so easily, right? That wasn't something that was always documented. So we have to go find oral histories. We have to find historical records. There's a lot of stuff that has to be done and uncovered, and that's also something that takes time. But when we establish the work group, that will give us a time frame when we'll be very clear with the public about what that looks like.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. No, everyone didn't have an iPhone then. Let me catch this cross on my lawn burning. So you have to reconstruct. Do you think that public opinion is changing? I mean, I know that we're in this, we went through 2020 where everyone said, yeah, let's fix this race problem we had. Now we're all the way into backlash.
When I took this job, I was really clear that there was a window we had to do as much as we can before the backlash emerged. All we have to do is go back and look at Reconstruction, and then we look at times after the Great Depression, and then we look after the Civil Rights Act. Every single time there have been major incidents of major moments of racial progress, there have been countervailing forces that have pushed us in the opposite direction. And so I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked by what we're seeing right now. And I think, we have been preparing for a moment like this, what we call as an era of regression. And so public opinion, is both shaped and constructed by various forces. But in this case, we anticipated that folk who are against and opposed to these efforts were going to push back. And so we're working really hard to make sure that we embed in government practices and procedures that enable us to continue to do this work and move forward. So yes, public opinion may or may not be in our favor, but I think what is in our favor is sort of these universal values and principles of fairness, of equality, of treating people, with respect and dignity. And even with what we're seeing right now happening with the raids, we in LA County, we're all many of us are pushing back against that, right? We're not standing for that.
Yeah, well, since you went to ICE, let's go to judicially affirmed in the chat. Says, why does it take so long for cities, counties, and states to do what's right for freedmen, but give immigrants money, business, and land as soon as they cross the border? I think that business and land and money thing is wildly exaggerated, unless you're talking about Ukrainians. But nevertheless, clearly there is a perception that we we meaning black people, freedmen, descendants of chattel slavery, ADOS, FBA, whatever y'all want to call it, are always last on the list. And if you look at the history of reparations in this country, we've given reparations to a lot of folks. People who have been harmed by pharmaceuticals, farmers whose crops have been ruined by this, that, or the third. Japanese Americans who have been staunchly in support of Black American reparations, and on it goes. So what's your perception of that? I mean, I know it's a loaded question, but...
So first, let me acknowledge that I know a lot of us are asking a very similar question, right? Why do we always have to be last? When there are so many other folk who have needs, they get to be put first. And I'll say first what I've shared with a lot of folk. I do not believe in these illusions of division. And the reality is, for our Board of Supervisors, all 5 of them voted for this reparations motion, right? All 5 of them support it. All 5 of them are backing the work we're doing in ARTI. All 5 of them are committed to advancing equity and committed to making sure that the needs of Black folk and every single resident in LA County are addressed. That's the first thing, that we're in this work together. And so when folk are like, hey, they shouldn't get theirs before I get mine, the reality is we're operating, I think, from a place where there's been a lot of pain, there's been a lot of hurt, there's been a lot of harm. And my reality is, and my job is to make sure that that we think about this from a targeted universalism approach, that we have outcomes for everybody, but that we have targeted strategies that meet the needs of each and every single one of us. And so meeting the needs of Black folk should not take away from meeting the needs of immigrant communities, meeting the needs of, Japanese residents or Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander residents shouldn't take away from meeting the needs of American Indian and Alaska Native residents. There are going to be different strategies, there are going to be different approaches, and that's how we've been informing and shaping our approach here in the county as well, making sure that we are addressing those needs based upon the ways in which our communities have expressed their needs need to be addressed.
And time flies when you're on the radio. We just got about a minute and a half here. Hand the mic to you. I know there were some points you wanted to make, but also if you want to address how people, our activists, how they can help move this forward.
Yeah, I think folk should stay involved. I have and also realize that you have someone in the county who's deeply committed to this work. I have my great-great-great-great-grandmother's emancipation papers. I can touch them. I have the newspaper clipping from her widow, Pashan, who died when the sheriff posted a notice saying that anyone who had a claim against her state could come and get them, right? And so this is not an issue that I'm distant from. This is an issue that I am personally connected to. And I can go back to my family's land in Louisiana and step my foot on the place where my grandmother was raised and point to examples of harm that existed. What you have in the county, I think, through our Board of Supervisors is a commitment to figuring out how we can do this work as best we can. But you have in me a desire to give the board an option, give them a set of options, and give them a framework so that they can make the best decisions to address this issue today.
Well, we appreciate your coming by on a Freedmen Friday, and thank you for giving us insight into what's happening in LA County around this issue.
Thank you for having me.
All right, the phone lines are wide open. You got a thing to say about a thing you heard, or you want to talk about something completely different? The early morning raid of John Bolton's home. Oh, there's a lot going on around there. 800-920-1580. I'm Dominique DiPrima for KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. California Democrats are moving forward with redistricting after Governor Newsom signed a plan that could net 5 House seats.
They fired the first shot, Texas. We wouldn't be here had Texas not done what they just did. Donald Trump didn't do what he just did.
Voters will decide in a November special election, countering a similar GOP push in Texas. Harvard is ordering the removal of a Black Lives Matter sign from 2 biology professors' office windows. The sign, posted in 2020, violates campus display rules. Critics say the move reflects political pressure and undermines free speech. And Hernandez Govan, accused of arranging rapper Young Dolph's murder, has been found not guilty. The jury rejected claims he ordered the hit. Govan thanked jurors and said he's just happy to be free and ready to hug his son. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Every day, a child in poverty waits for a sponsor is another day of hopelessness. There are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year. End their wait. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Just text the word radio to 83393.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers tuned up for their very important series in San Diego this weekend with a 9-5 win at Colorado. 4 straight win for Clayton Kershaw. 7 players in the Dodgers lineup had at least 1 RBI. The Dodgers needed a dominant win to build some momentum for their 3-game series with the Padres. Game 1 is tonight. The Dodgers lead the Padres by only 1 game in the NL West Division.